The courtroom was buzzing with anticipation as the judge examines the documents in front of her. All the preparation and hard work had been leading up to this moment for Avia and her adoptive parents. She was seated beside them, eyes cast down, as the hearing took place to finalize her adoption. The judge sensed that something was amiss, so she shifted her gaze to the young girl and prompted her to speak with one very important question. "Ava," the judge asked again. She had repeated the question, but Avia had no idea what to say. She could change the course of her future with just one answer, but will that be the right decision? She looked back at the ground, her heart pounding in her chest. This was it. Should she do it? Then suddenly Ava looked up, stared directly into the judge's eyes and said, "But what did the judge ask Ava? What did she say to stop the hearing, and will she make the right decision?" But before we start, smash the like button and make sure to subscribe if you haven't, and hit that notification bell so that you won't miss any new stories. Ava had a difficult childhood. She never knew who her biological parents were, as she was left at a hospital when she was just a baby. She was taken into the system and has been searching for her permanent adoptive parents since then. But she never had much luck, but this time around, it would be different. So when the Smiths asked Ava if she wanted to join their family forever, she didn't hesitate to say yes. Everyone was overjoyed and happy to add a new family member to their home. Miss Smith told Ava she was the missing piece to their puzzle, and now their family was finally complete, or so they thought. So the next day, the Smiths told Ava it was time to finalize her adoption. They had asked Ava beforehand many times if she was really sure about this decision. They assured her they wouldn't feel badly toward her if she changed her mind. But was she? But little did they know this wasn't the case. Ava wasn't sure at all, but she was in a difficult position. Should she tell them about her doubts, or should she proceed and live in a steady, loving, and secure household for the rest of her life? And of course, Ava chose the latter. How could you expect otherwise from such a young child? She wondered why she felt like this. Why couldn't she be happy with the family she's got? Soon after, the day of the court hearing arrived. The Smiths were very excited and made sure to give Ava the best morning by baking her pancakes and pouring her fresh squeezed orange juice. They smiled and laughed at the breakfast table, talking about all the fun things they would do as a family. After breakfast, everyone went their own way and got ready to go to court. Ava smiled and acted like she was just as excited as them, but in reality, she felt different. She felt scared, and the courtroom became a place that would determine the rest of her life, and somehow, Ava understood. They headed over to the courtroom and went through all the standard procedures. Ava's heart pounded in her chest as they walked through the hallway. The hearing began and they all stood when the judge arrived. Ava felt a wave of anxiety wash over her, but she pushed it aside and reminded herself of the happy life she would live with this family. Ava's foster parents spoke first, praising their parenting skills and how much they loved and cared for Avia. They started by telling the judge an anecdote of the first week of Ava with them. It started by they describe her smile during those first hours, her excellent table manners, and her excitement about her own bedroom. And that wasn't all. The Smiths had much more to say about the perfect life they had in store for Ava. But was it really that perfect? Then, they showed pictures of the family together and videos of them doing fun activities together, trying to persuade the judge that they were the perfect family for her. Ava knew they weren't lying. They were the perfect family, but maybe a bit too perfect for Ava's liking. There had to be something else. Suddenly, Ava noticed a sudden change in the judge's body language. Where it had been open and relaxed the whole time, it was now a bit tenser, and so was her facial expression. She frowned at the paper before her and stuttered when she asked Ava's parents the following question. "Will you allow Ava to search for her parents post-adoptively?" Everyone in the courtroom fell silent. And her parents, Mr. Smith answered, confused. Ava's interest was now sparked. Even Avia herself has never met her parents. Of course, she and her husband had discussed the possibility of this when they decided to adopt a young child from foster care. But they had come to the conclusion that letting the child look for their real parents would most likely only cause trouble in the long run. Maybe the child would not find those parents in the first place, and this could lead to a lot of negative emotions like disappointment and even depression. And the same goes for if she were to find those parents and they wanted nothing to do with her, or it could swing the other way. Maybe the child finds her parents and they'd start building up a bond again. This would weaken their own relationship with their adoptive daughter. Ava hesitated before drawing attention to herself. If she were to speak up here about her truth, she could ruin any chance she had of a future with a loving family. So she had no reason to doubt these people, but her gut feeling just was so strong she could not hold it in. But the judge was not going to change her opinion because of some entitled parents. She had been doing this way too long and already got a good idea of what was going on here. She was going to talk to Avia alone, and that was that. Ava was dead nervous when she walked into the judge's chamber only moments later. The judge was sitting behind her desk, waiting for the little girl with a warm smile on her face and a cold glass of lemonade for the young girl. Ava's eyes went all over the room. She'd never been in an official chamber like this, despite the chaotic first years of her life. So the judge decided to switch approach and really try to make sure that Avia understood what was going on here and what was at stake. That if she wanted to let her true feelings be heard, that this was the only chance to do so. Ava seemed to be unsure. She had a hard time trusting people and didn't know if this was the right time. She asked the judge hesitantly, "Are you sure?" Madam, the judge nodded her head and told her it was just them in that room. The young girl was very much taken aback by this, but the approach did seem to work. Ava was breaking right in front of the judge's eye. She started crying, sobbing, but at least she was giving honest answers now, and the judge knew exactly what to do with that information. Despite the fact that the judge foresaw the emotions that would come off at some point, she made sure to write everything down. She knew this information wouldn't be accepted by the Smiths right away, so it needed to be official documentation. And so the judge decides to go for a fresh breath of air as she prepares for her duty. She steps outside to drink her coffee in peace while she keeps an eye on Ava through the window of her lot. The judge saw the lawyer of the Smiths sitting on a bench outside, rapidly writing things down while angrily looking at her. He was clearly not having this recess and made sure to use his time to prepare for every possible scenario. The last thing the judge wanted was to involve the lawyers too much. When the court got back in session a bit later, the Smiths were a lot more nervous than before. They had no idea what had become of the conversation between Ava and the judge, but they had no idea it was going to impact the hearing. The lawyer, of course, was thinking about the Smiths family's interest, without being aware of the doubts of little Ava. He kept demanding to follow the procedure. The judge wasn't going to change her mind and overruled him. When even Ava saw this heated discussion between the judge and the lawyer, she held her head down the entire time. All these voices, all this discussion, all this pressure, because she had to make a decision. As the judge successfully overruled the lawyer, and so she could carry on with her plan. It was time to shift the attention to Ava again, who was left with no choice but to speak up. Everyone present waited in tension as the judge started to introduce her question. The young girl took a deep breath and nearly shouted it through the courtroom, stunning everybody into complete silence. No. The Smiths could not believe it, but Ava's also actually able to give an explanation for a rejection of them. This whole time she had been wondering why the prospect of being adopted by the family had not seemed like a good idea to her, even though, at face value, it was great. But the judge made her realize that it did not matter, that she could not think of a good reason. They were talking about adopting her. She was going to most likely be considering these people her parents for the rest of her life if she decided to go through with it. If there was ever anything that needed to feel 100% perfect, this was it. Ava went to thank the judge, who was even a little emotional herself. Then, Ava went to the Smiths and gave them a hug. She kept telling them she was sorry and made sure they understood by explaining to them what she and the judge had talked about. Mr. and Miss Smith were obviously very disappointed, but they could also not be mad or something. They understood the perception and arguments of the judge, and as much as they wanted Ava to be their daughter, if it did not feel right for her, then they should not go through with it.